So I just got yelled at for asking a very reasonable question.
I just watched a TikTok that apparently time blindness is a thing. So if you struggle to be on time, it's called time blindness. I will be identifying with this. I've been struggling my entire life. So you can't get mad if I'm an hour late. I am time blind. Thank you very much.
Hey people, how you are doing today? Girl Destiny here and welcome back to my channel. How you are doing? Hope you guys are doing great. Today's video, I find this conversation very interesting, and yeah, I have a lot to say about this. So apparently this young lady came on TikTok to talk about time blindness. Let me know down in the comment section, have you ever heard of the word time blindness or the condition called time blindness? So this lady went on to talk about how people should be considered and make provision for people that suffer from time blindness. And this got a lot of people talking, but let's go hear what this lady has to say.
So I just got yelled at for asking a very reasonable question. So I'm applying to go somewhere, and I just wanted to know, are there accommodations for people who struggle with time blindness and being on time, And then the person I was with interrupted and acted like I was asking something else, and then when we were done, they actually started yelling at me and saying that accommodations for time blindness doesn't exist, and if you struggle with being on time, you'll never be able to get a job. Provided you're trying your absolute best to be there. And then they're like, your generation wants to destroy the workplace. And yeah, I think that a culture where workers are just cut off because they struggle with being on time, when there's other solutions that we can look to, I think that just anybody who thinks it's okay to just treat people like that, yeah, that culture needs to be dismantled. And then I asked that person, how can you feel good about yourself upholding this kind of system? And then to think I'm entitled. No, if people think it's okay to treat others like this, that's entitlement.
Please go down in the comment section and share your thoughts about this down in the comment section. Love to know what you think about this conversation. And let us know down in the comment section if you heard of the term time blindness. I have a lot to say about this. Okay, so yeah, because this got a lot of people in a conversation, and some people were here to educate us and let us know what the term time blindness mean and how and what people suffer from this time blindness.
They actually started yelling at me and saying that accommodations for time blindness doesn't exist, and if you struggle with being on time, you'll never be able to get a job.
I've seen a lot of videos about this, even from some of my mutuals, and I think that there's a lot of people who are just misinformed about this whole concept. Time blindness is a real thing, especially with people who suffer from executive functioning issues such as ADHD and autism. And we have all suffered from time blindness at some point in time. You get so engrossed in a conversation or so engrossed in an activity that the time just flew by. That's time blindness. And here's what the Cleveland Clinic has to say about this. It's a natural consequence of hyper-focus or becoming so engrossed in an activity that you block out everything else around you. People with consistent time blindness have trouble managing their time. And so there are accommodations for it. And these are accommodations that I use with my kid who has time blindness. We have timers set up. We have alarms set up. There's alarms on the watches. There's reminders in cell phones. There's those type of things. And yeah, the onus is on the person who suffers from the time blindness to do this, because as an adult, you're not responsible for doing this for yourself. This is also where therapy can help and those type of things, because it can help teach you the different tips and tricks to overcome some of these executive functioning skills such as time blindness.
So I'm applying to go somewhere, and I just wanted to know, are there accommodations for people who struggle with time blindness and being...
Y'all knew I was coming, didn't you? Anyway, the stitches to this video are ugly, just like the people who made them. And first of all, I just want to applaud this creator for even asking for accommodations for unrecognized things such as time blindness. Because let's be honest, this world doesn't even acknowledge visible disabilities, the ones that you can see. So they damn sure don't acknowledge the invisible ones. As someone with autism and ADHD, I've noticed that my time blindness is usually in the form of underestimating or overestimating how much time something will take. which usually ends up making me really late or really early to things. And I've noticed as I've gotten older and have burnt out of neurotypical standards, I'm usually more late to things. And I'm just going to be really honest here. We are decades upon decades away from people actually viewing different neurotypes as a disability that needs accommodations. And so doing things like asking for accommodations for time blindness is going to start this whole like fury for the neurotypicals, right? Because they just view it as a maturity problem versus a disability problem. But we need to keep bringing things like this up so we can progress with invisible disabilities such as ADHD. I made a comment in another video the other day basically saying that when you're neurodivergent, you trying your hardest can look like the bare minimum to someone who is neurotypical. And it's the truth. I've been ostracized for it, gaslit, I've lost friendships over it, and that's all rooted in ableism. Like, I have friends who have ADHD that's worse than mine. And when I tell you they don't have any sense of time whatsoever, like they think a 3-hour conversation is a 10-minute conversation, like it's a real thing. And just like how we usually can't understand how a neurotypical brain can understand things like time, they usually don't understand that we don't understand time. So yes, you are extremely valid in wanting and needing accommodations for things like time blindness. And we need to keep advocating for things like this. And also understand that a lot of people are going to say, and unfortunately that's where we are right now, but we're working towards changing that.
I wanted to know, are there accommodations for people who struggle with time blindness and being on time?
I've seen this video get so much hate. And I think it's because she's not asking for an accommodation. She's asking for a special privilege. And she's just labeling it as an accommodation. Which sucks. Because that's how a lot of people view accommodations. They think like, oh, do you really need to be accommodated or are you just getting special treatment? Which is not fair to people who need accommodations. I have ADHD, I have time blindness. There are accommodations that can help with that. Your employer can tell you how long you should be working on a task, what tasks you need to do at what times, creating a work calendar with you. But you can't just show up late to things. That's not how it works at your job, that's not how it works at the doctor's office, that's not how it works at a friend's house. I used to be late to everything, but now that I'm an adult and I have a job and things I need to do, I have realized, okay, it takes me 1 hour to get ready for things. I need this amount of time to drive there. I need to add an extra 5 to 10 minutes on the drive just because I want to show up early or in case I run into traffic. No, I have an alarm 15 minutes before I need to wake up, when I need to wake up, 15 minutes after. I have the alarm when I need to leave. I live with a watch on my wrist and I'm constantly checking the time to keep myself aware of it. The question itself, is there accommodations for this, is not unreasonable. I think that what you are asking for with that accommodation is unreasonable. Because asking to be allowed to come in late, that's just not how it works. There are certain like freelance or contract gigs that can do that. Like as long as you're getting your work done, it doesn't matter when or where. But unfortunately, a lot of jobs are like shift work. So if they need like 3 people in the store all at once and somebody's shift just ended and they have to go home, they aren't just going to hang out and wait for you. Like if it's a tag out kind of system like that, no, you cannot be late. Because it's not just affecting you, it is affecting other people at that point. I think people are being like needlessly rude and trying to explain that to you. I do think the way that some people are handling this is kind of ableist because they're making like accommodations the problem when it's actually just like this is a very individual problem that is not an accommodation at all. This is just one of those situations where you are fully responsible. And I know that it's difficult and it will take a lot of practice and self-regulation, but you will get there, you will learn to do it, and you will push through, and it will be fine.
Accommodations for time blindness doesn't exist, and if you struggle with being on time, you'll never be able to get a job.
Everyone's dissecting your video, but you're absolutely correct. There is a such thing as time blindness, and it is hard to sustain employment if you have time blindness. Now, what is time blindness? Time blindness is the inability to keep track of time. And the people who suffer from time blindness normally has PTSD, autism, or ADHD. First things first, these things must be medically documented, right? You must suffer from these conditions to deal with time blindness, all right? A lot of people who are denouncing time blindness has no idea, no concept that it's part of a diagnosis. People with PTSD, autism, and ADHD suffer from time blindness because our brains operate in 2 modes, automatic mode and direct mode. Automatic mode is the things that our brains do every day. You know, we read books, we get lost in books, we get lost in TV, we get lost in video games, you know, hobbies, whatever, where you just hyper focus on this one thing and it consumes all your time because this makes you happy. Direct mode of the brain allows us to be aware of time to put like gaps in between your day. Like in 15 minutes, I gotta go walk the dog. Or in an hour, I gotta turn on the stove and get supper ready. Or in 45 minutes, I gotta bust suds and then do laundry. So depending on PTSD, autism, or ADHD, how one's brain is wired, the direct mode of the brain is shut off. So you're just running on automatic mode. This is why people with these type of conditions can just zone out on certain things and forget to wash up, forget to take medication, forget to handle responsibilities, because their brain is wired, or their brain's been shattered to where they hyper focus to keep their brain locked in one place that makes them happy and content. I think people need to research and stop always denouncing, oh, there ain't no such thing as time blindness. Sorry, we're not all fine and dandy like you. Some people suffer from mental conditions that has their brain wired to a way that they can't operate much like you, who knows time and the intricate workings of time itself. So, yeah, do some research, stop denouncing people, because there's people who legit suffer from it. I happen to be one of them. It's annotated. Sometimes I forget what day it is. I'm all the way on days. So it's a legit thing. As far as employment, you can't exceed over 10% of your daily work function. Class dismissed. Enjoy your day.
So I just got yelled at for asking a very reasonable question.
If you can't show up on time, they'll eventually just give the job to somebody who can. Nobody owes you any accommodations because you can't be bothered to get up early and show up to work on time. They'll just give the job to somebody who appreciates it. You being late doesn't just affect you, it affects other people too at your workplace. So perhaps you might want to think about other people for 5 minutes rather than expecting everybody to bend over backwards to accommodate your lateness. It's simply not how the real world works. There's a lot of people looking for jobs at the moment. It doesn't take much to outperform somebody who can't even be bothered to show up on time.
Accommodations for time blindness doesn't exist, and if you struggle with being on time, you'll never be able to get a job.
Look, I've never heard of time blindness. I don't even want to get into how goofy that sounds, because things are just being created out of thin air nowadays to accommodate people. Imagine if your employer said this: today's Thursday, you get paid tomorrow on Friday. We lost track of time, a little bit of time blindness. You're not going to get paid tomorrow, you're going to get paid next Wednesday. Imagine if your house was burning down, you called 911 and they said that there were no firefighters at the station because they had time blindness and they lost track of time. Imagine if you called the police, you needed help, somebody was breaking into your home. Sorry, nobody showed up for their shift yet. They're going to be 5 hours late, a little bit of time blindness. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Why are you crying? Be on time.
I'm applying to go somewhere, and I just wanted to know, are there accommodations for people who struggle with time blindness and being...
So just a couple quick questions. First of all, you're aware that the phone in your hand while you're making this video has the capability of alarms and reminders so that you don't have to be late. So if you struggle like with your internal clock or whatever, you have an external one in your hand probably 90% of the time. Secondly, as an employer, if I can't rely on you to be on time for your shift, who should I rely on? So like other people should be available to be on time for your shift, because it would be expecting too much of you, right? To make sure you're on time. So, but other people should. And of course that's going to apply to me. Like if I'm a day or 2 or 3 late with your pay, I mean, I can't be expected to be on time every time.
So I just got yelled at for asking a very reasonable question.
The stitches to that video are so disappointing and so condescending. All she's asking for is flexibility. She has disabilities, which for her make it difficult for her to be on time. She just wants flexibility, that is all. And I guess there's this impression that she's asking to do less work or spend less time at work. That's not what she said. She's asking for accommodations. So I don't know, maybe she's like 20 minutes late, so she leaves 20 minutes later.
or something like that. I don't know. She's just asking for accommodations. Why does she deserve to be yelled at because of that? Even if she couldn't be accommodated, it's reasonable to ask. And it's not acceptable to be yelled at to the point where she's in tears because she asked for accommodation. Like, have some empathy, guys. Seriously, you always say autistic people don't have empathy, but here you are, like, being so condescending to someone with a disability.
Applying to go somewhere, and I just wanted to know, are there accommodations for people who struggle with time blindness and being on...
Lady, are you okay? You good? Now, the day they start accommodating for you not being able to show up to work on time, I think that's the day I probably would be rich. You know what I mean? Because if anybody needs accommodations, it would be me. And you can ask any of my friends or family members that know me, they will literally tell you straight up, I have never made it to work on time. I might do that like once in a blue moon, but I've never really made it to work on time. Shit, I've never even made it to school on time. And it's not because I have ADHD, because I don't, but it's simply because I'm too lazy and I always wait until the last minute to want to leave the house. That's why I never show up on time. Stop blaming your bad habits on disorders. It's a huge slap in the face to those who actually have it.
So I just watched the Time Blindness Girl video and wanted to give my 2 cents on it. So first off, no hate towards that creator. I understand what she was trying to say. However, I don't think you can, I don't think you're going to have any luck asking for accommodations for time blindness anywhere you go. What you can do is ask for accommodations for ADHD, but those accommodations are only going to extend to a certain extent. I think probably most companies would consider being where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, as a basic requirement of a job. And while it's true that a lot of people with ADHD struggle with being on time, the burden of that is really on the person with ADHD, not on the company. Typically, a company is going to be willing to make accommodations if they don't see it as something that's going to compromise your performance. And, not being where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, I think a company would definitely see as something that's going to compromise your ability to perform. So just to give you a quick example of an ADHD accommodation that I have asked for in the past and was granted, I was having a hard time after lunchtime. I was getting really tired and wasn't able to perform, at the level that I was capable of. So I asked my boss if I could start coming into the office an hour and a half earlier, take an extra long lunch, and go to the gym. That way I could get the blood flowing and have more energy and be able to perform for the rest of the day. And that was granted because it wasn't something that compromised my ability to perform. In fact, it made me more effective. So again, no hate towards that creator, but a sour truth of ADHD is oftentimes the burden is going to be on you. And sometimes you can find creative ways to alleviate that burden, but not at the expense of somebody else or something else, like in this case, a company.
They actually started yelling at me and saying that accommodations for time blindness doesn't exist, and if you struggle with being on time, you'll never be able to get a job.
Hey, I'm watering flowers. I hope my kids don't see this video because I'm going to reply to this idea much nicer than I would reply to them if they said the same thing. I do think that even though everyone's making fun of this person online, there is a sort of reasonable response to be made. In the second video, they mentioned the lack of civil discourse, so here's me having civil discourse. It actually comes in the form of good news. You want accommodation for time blindness, and the good news is you have it already. Wanting it is the accommodation. If you recognize that you're chronically late, call it time blindness, whatever, then you have what you need to solve the problem. Now, it sounds like you and I have something in common, which is I also don't believe in personal responsibility. I think it's a myth. But where we're different is that I think it's a very important myth. It seems like you're disregarding it. I think you should own that myth. The myth of personal responsibility is going to make a big difference. It's going to help you get by in life. That's my experience anyway.
So I just got yelled at for asking a very reasonable question.
When you throw out questions like, are there accommodations for time blindness during like a job interview or anything like that, I would think that the minimal reaction is that you're going to get yelled at. And most likely you probably didn't get yelled at. You probably got a little lectured and you didn't like that. But I understand that you are saying that it is a part of your ADHD. It's something that you struggle with. I don't want to discount that, but this world will not accommodate you on that. If you have a hard time getting to places on time, then you need to accommodate for yourself and apply for jobs that don't require you to go somewhere. You need to be in a profession where you could work from home or have some kind of flexibility. If that requires a higher education, a higher degree than what you have now, then that's what you have to do. I mean, like, this is the world that we live in, and I am not the type of person that will usually say, you know, you got to adapt to the world that you live in, because I understand that the world is broken, the system sucks. But time blindness is literally a you problem only in that situation. You sound like somebody who's been on TikTok a little bit too long. Even using the word time blindness and expecting somebody in the outside world to understand what you're talking about is expecting too much. It's kind of like when I use the term neurodivergent. Most of the people that I talk to in my real life, they've never heard of that word. And so we have to be careful about our expectations of other people in the real world, because TikTok is not the real world. TikTok is very accepting of weird people, of people who are different, of people who are absolutely neurodivergent. There seems to be an influx of people and acceptance of those kinds of people here on TikTok. This is a bubble. This is a bubble. So you have to realize that you've got to adapt if you're going to make it out there. If you want to start making money, earning a higher degree, whatever it is that you need to do to live out here, you got to stop thinking that everybody is living in here.
Please go down in the comment section and share your thoughts. Love to know what you think about this conversation down in the comment section. Do you suffer from this condition? Let us know down in the comment section. Love to know what you think. But please, please, please keep it respectful. You don't have to disrespect anybody for you to air your opinion. So let's be respectful down in the comment section. Okay, like we always do. We're allowed to disagree, we're allowed to be informed. Okay, so if you have any more information or you feel like you want to educate us, go down, but please do it respectfully. Okay, so I personally, I would say, like, in a way, I kind of suffer from this time blindness. And this video it was just the first time ever hearing from this, like, oh, there's a term called what I think is wrong with me, like, oh, time blindness. And by the way, I am self-diagnosed ADHD because, yeah, I didn't get diagnosed by a doctor, but I think I am, because, you know, everybody's diagnosing themselves literally now on the internet. So I think I am, because most of the symptoms of ADHD I suffer. I can get really hyper focused and all those other things that come with ADHD. So I think I am, okay, but don't quote me on that, but I think I am. And this time management or this time blindness thing is a thing, like, I really suffer. A lot of my friends, they will tell you that I'm always late or something because I don't keep to time, or I'm not time conscious. That's the word they will use. Like, I'm never time conscious. I always feel like I have all the time in the world, but it's usually not like that. I don't come late intentionally, and sometimes I really get there really early, and that just kind of makes sense. So I think I totally relate to what they're talking about time blindness. It's not your intention to be late, but you are. You know what I mean? So I totally get that, like, 100% I get that. Even though this is a condition and doctors have confirmed that people with ADHD, autism, and even PTSD are the ones that suffer from this, do I feel like they need to, like, be accommodating from people that suffer from things like this? I'll say no, because that just shows that you're an adult, especially when you have gotten to the age of you can work. And then you just have to identify, especially when you're an adult and you're growing, you just have to identify those things that you're struggling with and know that, okay, this is me problem, and how do I fix me problem? Yes, it's a condition, but workplace is not going to accept you when they know that they can rely on you in terms of time. So you as the adult, like I said, you need to now consciously, like, I personally, I have this which maybe I'll share it on my screen, where before I go to bed every day, I literally timeline everything I need to do for the days. Sometimes I keep up with it, sometimes I'm not able to keep up with it, but that also helped me to know what to focus at what point in time, and that has helped me. And alarm too is very helpful. Keep your alarm close to you and all that. So I just feel like it's not a thing where they have to make a prevention or a privileged position or treatment to people that have it. I don't think no. You know, get yourself organized if you know you're not organized, because that's also going to affect the business, the company, if they can rely on you on time, and that's going to cost them money. And what business person or company wants to lose money because of your condition? No. And mind you, before I even sign out on this video, I came to find out that the girl talking, she was talking about her mom was the one she was having this conversation with, and her mom was the one that called her out on this, but she came on the internet and was crying about this. Do I feel like this generation sometimes gets really entitled sometimes? Yes, I feel so. I'm not judging, but I feel like, yes, everything has a name, everything has a label, but not everything has to be catered for. You get, like, there's a video I did about a plus size woman talking about how the airplane should make seat provisions for people that are plus size. Like, come on now, come on. Like, I just feel like you are reaching, yeah, you're reaching too much. That's how I feel like. No. Anyway, guys, please go down in the comment section and share your thought. Love to know what you think about this conversation. So go down in the comment section and share your thought and your story. Love to know your own thought on this. With that all said, guys, please don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. Smash the like button, because that helps YouTube to push out my content, and that will be you supporting your girl. And share this video with somebody that you want to be part of the conversation, because that's what we do here. We have banging conversation. So go down and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Deuces.